Hello, my fellow chatterers and book lovers, and anyone else who's popped in because you're curious about what this is or you have got a bit lost. Welcome, everyone. I am Chatty. Welcome to my channel, Chatty the Mad Chatter. If you have not been here before, prepare for lots of waffle, like things like that, and chaos. The camera can fall over, it could all go terribly wrong, because on my channel I do not edit. It is one long continuous shot because my software does not like me to edit. I can do shorts on my phone, but anything else is too much. So we have what we have. So embrace chaos. It's one shot, no editing. Cheers, everyone. Clink, clink, clink. And if you have been here before, welcome back. Thank you so much for coming again. If you do enjoy my videos, then please give it a like. That's always nice. And maybe think about subscribing. It's always nice to be appreciated. So I'll be chatting away madly today about the books I have read so far in November. Usually I kind of start with the first book I read and kind of continue like that. But I was watching a video where someone kind of mentioned that they're going to start with the one they most want to talk about because they know that most videos people watch maybe like the first bit, and then for whatever reason, you know, it's not the right time, you get distracted and never get back to it, or it's just not for you, they then disappear. So I'm going to talk about the one I most want to talk about, which is the one I have just finished reading, and it is The Conductors by Nicole Glover. I love this book. I'm so pleased I love this book. I really hoped I would love this book. I've not seen a huge amount about it, and I think this could be because it is a historical fantasy mystery, so it is a wonderful genre mashup blend in here, and that could be why, because it's not pure genre, it's not necessarily ticking all the boxes that some people want in their books. It might be more beloved by the historical fiction readers or the mystery readers, and I just don't know enough or dwell enough in those circles to have seen it spoken about. Definitely haven't seen it a lot on the fantasy channels, but if you know of some really good reviews about it, please let me know in the comments because I'd love to go and watch them. I haven't gone and sought them out because I wanted to be able to get my thoughts out first before going on to other people's, just so I could make sense of it for me before then seeing what other people thought of it. So what I just loved about this book was I just felt really pulled in to this world and these characters and this little community. So it is set in the 1870s, I think. Pretty sure it's 1871. I'm just going to check now. Yeah, it starts in 1871. So it's set in the very early 1870s in Philadelphia, and our protagonist is Hetty, who used to be a conductor on the railroads, and now her and her husband, theirs is a marriage of convenience, more of a partnership rather than a love match, and they tend to be the ones that solve crimes. So all the death that the actual police wouldn't be bothered about, they go and kind of see what's happened. They do missing persons. They go and try and find them. They try and like look up what's going on. So they're sort of like amateur investigators, but they're known in their community, and people will get in touch with them in their community knowing that they did this. We do get a little bit of the background done in interludes, so we kind of see where we do harken back to sort of like 15 years previously, when it was when slavery hadn't been abolished, when it was during the war. And we see what life was like for Hetty. We see how she met along her journey, kind of like things she did as a conductor. So we just get little glimpses of her life. And we also get glimpses of how her and Benji kind of like started off together. But we are mainly in the 1870s in their community in Philadelphia. And they are solving a murder mystery. But they have magic in this world. So we have magic which is that they use, which comes from the stars, So that's called celestial magic, and that tends to be the magic of the Black community, where they will draw and trace constellations of stars, and those will kind of do certain things. And it doesn't matter when you draw them. There's a certain way you can draw it there and then in the moment, kind of like in the air or kind of on the floor. Or what Hetty does, because she's a seamstress, is she will stitch it into clothing and then call upon it when she needs to with her touch. And it's just really fun details like that, which is really interesting. There is a forbidden magic to the Black community, which is sorcery, that is reserved only for white people. And this is basically kind of the Western magic, which involves wands. And so there was an outlaw against that. So both the privileged have the use of magic, and obviously this meant there was an extra suppression of the magical community when they were enslaved. So there is some harking back to some horrific things, but a lot of it for this book, the vibes I kind of got was more of this found family, this community that they had established here, and the friendships they make became family, because so many families were separated and lost and torn apart. They forged their own ones, and that's what really pulls me in this book. Like, that's what I really love. And I love Hetty sort of like finding where she fits in this world and kind of what she wants for herself, that's explored. And I love the relationship that her and Benji have together, and how that develops. That was gorgeous. And how you start to see the strength of friendship within here, and how she feels about certain people. Hetty's not perfect. She can hold a grudge. She has a quick temper, and all of those things just I find kind of more endearing. And, you know, she does change her mind on things as well. And I just really grew to love Hetty and this little community that she had. And that's what pulls me into the story. That's what makes me love the story so much, that I just enjoyed the characters and spending time with the characters and seeing what the characters were facing and what they were doing. And it does feel that there is a struggle to be safe, because they don't get the protections. They are still seen as second class. They are still seen as below the whites. So you've got that aspect to it, as well as the kind of underworld dealings that are kind of going on, and that people know that Hetty and Benji solve things, so they are more likely to be a target. So you've kind of got just a lack of safety, really. And it is very much like Hetty is self-reliant. They have to be in here to survive, and that survival instinct is still going strong. And something else I'm going to say, and it's completely eluded me. Hold on. I thought I was going to be able to think of what I wanted to say, but it's completely gone out of my brain. Oh well. Good tea. So for me, it was just an absolutely enjoyable book. I felt there was suspense, there was mystery. I did guess who the culprit was before it was revealed, just because I felt it had to be that person. But there were a lot of possibilities and suspects and intrigue and bodies, and all sorts of like different pieces. That's what I wanted to say. Oh my goodness. I also really enjoyed how we explored lots of people's different stories. So there is not just one story, one history, one family. Like, everyone has their own story in their own place and their own way of adapting to new situations. There was definitely an exploration of class within here, and of wanting to be wealthy and the status and kind of what it meant. Also, there is definite kind of like the connotations of them people looking down on other people for not making those choices and wanting to better themselves through what is the word? Capitalism is not the word. Materialistic things. So I found all of that really fascinating as well. I just really enjoyed it. I just love this so much, and I can't wait to read the second book, which is The Undertakers. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited to spend some more time with these characters. I don't know. I know there's The Undertakers. I don't know if it was just 2 books. I don't know if Nicole Glover has any more, but I really hope she does. I hope she brings out some more. I really enjoyed her writing. I enjoyed her storytelling. I had a great time with this book. If you enjoy any of those things that I've spoken about, I think you will have a great time in here. If you... There is the magic system, I'd say, is more of a soft magic system than a hard magic system. But there is a certain amount of... There's a little bit of ruling to it, but not massively. So you might not enjoy kind of the fantasy element if you hate soft magic systems. But it's for me, it's the characters. It's the characters that just made this for me. I do also enjoy historical fiction. This is a time period that I'm really interested in. I'm enjoying all of the social justice aspects of it as well, and exploring the society. I enjoyed the mystery as well. So it ticked a whole lot of boxes just in this one book, and I had a really great time with it. But it's Hetty and Benji and their friends that just made me love it. So if that sounds like it's for you, please read The Conductors. It is gorgeous. Gorgeous. One that I didn't find so gorgeous is I have a DNF. It's the second book in... I don't know if that's going to stay now. Just reorganise the books. There we go. Just because I want everyone to be able to appreciate the Conductors cover and just see it there. Harrow the Ninth, the second book in the Locked Tombs series by Tamsin Muir. I read Gideon a couple of years ago. I was excited to continue. I really enjoyed Gideon the Ninth. Wasn't a favourite. It wasn't one that I felt like I wanted to reread, but there was enough of it that I wanted to kind of continue with the story and see kind of what happened next. There were a couple of aspects that I really enjoyed of the book. So for me, I feel that rather than... I can't remember the tagline, but it doesn't kind of live up to the tagline, but I feel more of Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None, but with necromancy, is kind of more how I would sell Gideon the Ninth to people. I'm one of those people that enjoyed the character of Gideon. I found her entertaining. It was very silly, it was very stupid, but I just enjoyed that, and I kind of enjoyed the odd couple kind of pairing with Harrow, that she was sort of the opposite of Gideon. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the And Then There Were None aspect of it, where everyone is trapped in a certain situation and then people start dropping off. I didn't necessarily get the magic system of the bone magic, but I enjoyed the kind of different houses aspect of the world. I enjoyed kind of parts of the culture. I found all of that fun. And I just kind of let the bone magic just go over my head. I was like, sure, do stuff with stuff. Fine. And I understood the plot and the purpose and the motivation and the drive and what the characters were aiming for and what the end game was supposed to be. When I picked up Harrow the Ninth, it should have worked, because we've got 2 storylines happening. We're starting kind of, I think, at the climax of the book as like the prologue. Then we go back to kind of where we left things off at the end of Gideon the Ninth. And then we've kind of got another storyline going on that feels very disjointed and out of place. And that should have worked for me, because I enjoy that type of storytelling. I enjoy a non-linear story. I enjoy putting pieces together. It's intriguing. I find it exciting. I didn't feel the same with this one. I just was like, I don't understand what the current present day story is aiming for. I don't know what their purpose is. And I just feel like a lot of it is being lost in the overly wordy language of this bone necromancy culture. It just felt quite dense and like very over the top with the Lord, death, blah 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 blah. There just seemed to be a lot of words, and I just found it was a lot to kind of unpick to kind of get to the point, and I didn't get enough other characters than Harrow to kind of latch onto as well. So I just found it, I was suddenly like, I got to 68 pages, and then I was like, I feel like I'm forcing myself to read this rather than wanting to read it. And that is a big kind of telltale sign in this. So then I skimmed ahead and gone, does it get better? Is there going to be payoff here for me? Nope. 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 I then massively skipped forward. There are about just over 500, just under 500, just over 500 pages. Page 390 hit the point that I think I was waiting for. But I was like, I'm not getting through 390 pages to get to the point that I need for me to be invested in this book. So I was like, no, it's not going to work. Sorry. Even though what I was waiting for didn't happen until 390 pages in, I was like, no, I can't. It's just not enough to pull me in. I don't care enough. And even though we've got to that bit, I still don't care enough about what's going on. And I suspected what was occurring in one of the storylines. But I wasn't engaged in thinking this was fun enough. I just didn't find it fun. I didn't find it fun. I'm now going to mention a spoiler. I think people who have read this and who've read Gideon the Ninth might have inferred what my problem was. But I'm just going to spell it out to you. So, spoilers, if you really want to read Harrow the Ninth and you really want to read Gideon the Ninth, please skip forward to when I talk about the next book, because I'm going to spoil stuff now. Okay, you have been warned. I'm going in. I think my problem is that while I really enjoyed Gideon's character and I enjoyed the way Gideon and Harrow bounced off each other, I didn't enjoy Harrow by herself. I just didn't have anything to latch onto with her. Like, it was just, I enjoyed the big silly over the soul tortured emo kid, I'm afraid. There wasn't enough. When you just leave me with the soul tortured emo kid and you've taken away the big silly sword wielder, I'm sorry. I'm clearly, as a nerdy person, I should be like, woohoo, you know, intelligent emo kid. Yeah. Turns out I like the jock better. So sorry. But I missed Gideon too much. I was like, I realised that actually what sold me about Gideon the Ninth was Gideon. And there's a massive Gideon the Ninth whole shape in this book until you get to page 390. And that's too much. That is too much. There wasn't enough fun to kind of take away from the excessive necromantic bone death dirge magic. And just this whole, I killed all of my family as this genocide child to save my people. I needed that to be balanced out with a lot of stupid humor, and I didn't get it. And I couldn't wait that long for us to have the plot twist of, we know we've been given this alternative reality to what happened, and I wasn't having fun with the alternative reality. I think maybe there was too big a gap, and like I didn't care about seeing all the characters that died in the previous one come back again in some sort of weird way. And I just couldn't get what present day Harrow was needed to fight for and do. And Ianthe wasn't enough to save it either. Like, I didn't care enough about her deal. I also realised, was it just me? Did everyone get that I was calling her Corner Beth? Was she called Corona Beth? Because that's a little bit too close to the mark. Because then Ianthe's naming her dead sister affectionately. I thought she was calling her Corner before. But every time I saw her mention her sister, she was calling her Corona. I was like, oh, Corona, Corona, Corona. And there was a part of me that slightly found it amusing, but there was a part of me I was like, are you seriously naming your character Corona? I don't know if I can get on board with that. Maybe it's me. Maybe she's not actually, maybe it is Corner, and I just then was reading it as Corona, but I then couldn't unsee it. So that's a random thought that doesn't have a huge bearing on it, but it could. I'm sorry, I'm DNFing the series. We're gone. Bye bye, Harrow. Sorry. Okay, so non-spoilery people can come back now. Yeah, so I have made a decision that I will not be continuing with the Locked Tomb series. I am DNFing the series. It's just not for me. Whether that's because I didn't read the books close enough together and kind of have that momentum, or whether it's just what I loved about Gideon was missing in Harrow and I just can't continue. So I'm sorry. I love this type of back and forth plot and this kind of I don't completely know what's happening plot in Ruin of Kings and in the Lycanius trilogy in the second book, but I couldn't get on board with it in Harrow, unfortunately, and it just felt like a slog. It just felt like a chore, and when the book is feeling like that, you know it's time to say no. Well, at least you do if you're me. Oh, put you back on the shelf. Oh. Okay, so moving on to the other two books I did actually finish. So I have been continuing with all the books that I wanted to read for all of the Gothtober, all of the HALLOWTWEEN, all of the BLACKOWEENATHON, Readathons. October kind of didn't really happen. And I finally managed to do not live but watching it live from Stormi from Storm Reads with HALLOWTWEENATHON, and I read in their sprints The Haunting of Avaline Jones by Phil Hicks. So this is a middle grade horror. I don't read horror, but me, there was something about this that sounded fun. So it was more like spooky creepy. I like spooky creepy rather than horror, and it felt spooky creepy. So this was my level. And I had a brilliant time reading it atmospherically. So I did a little bit on the sprints. I did a little bit where I had candles. I was tucked up in bed. There was a rainstorm outside my windows. It was perfect. And I definitely kind of had to read sort of like the end bit all together, because otherwise I would have been a little bit freaked out. I needed to make sure that Avaline was okay. This was fabulous. I really loved this. The writing is gorgeous. You immediately warm to Avaline and her life and kind of what's going on with her. We have a secondhand bookshop in a little seaside town that's described as looking very creepy, with these weird kind of like almost like Guy Fawkes types mannequins made out of random sacks and pumpkin heads and all sorts of things that are kind of left out, sort of like scarecrow creepy vibes outside people's houses. So the atmosphere that was built up was beautiful. The kind of the little characters that you got to meet, sort of like friendships and things, and there is like a local legend, and I really enjoyed slowly learning about that and that exploration and understanding that maybe it's more than a legend, and there was the right kind of level of sort like freaky hints that maybe all is not well, that maybe if there's some truth behind it. It was just so beautifully done, and the climax freaked me out, but there was a sweetness to the story as well, and it ended how I needed it to, and I just had a wonderful time. I had a really wonderful time, and I'm really looking forward to reading the other books and other books that Phil Hicks brings out, because this was gorgeous. I also read Fablehouse by she is jumping at my hands, by E.L. Norrie. I still need to allow time to belatedly join one of the BLACKOWEENATHON sprints that I've missed, but this was one of my picks for the carousel one. The Conductors was the tram car. I can't remember the name of it. The tram car where it's got things like time travel in there, because we have like back and forth in the past and the present within the Conductors, and that worked really well for that one. So Fablehouse, it was a story, it was a secret and a story set in the spring or summer. So Fablehouse is about a home for children, that's where, you know, they're for one reason or another, they have been taken away from their guardians, and it's specifically that they are what is known as the brown babies. So a period in history within was it Wales or Cornwall? The west of England, the west of Britain, sorry, the west of Britain. There were American GIs stationed there, and a lot of the local girls started relationships with some of the soldiers. Some of the soldiers were black, and so when they all left and went back home or were killed in the war or whatever the different stories were, there were a lot of the white community that had children that were of mixed heritage. So they were known as the brown babies, and they were all put into a when they were not being looked after by their families, they were put into the children's home. So obviously you've kind of got a taboo from the racist people looking down on a mother and child, and so sort of the surrounding families like feeling there is a shame to this, that they didn't want the children. So there is some reference to the backstories of some of the children in here. So that's the kind of the historical context to this book. But there is also some really lovely stories of the difficulties that some children in care face, where their guardians, for whatever reason, are not able to look after them. And there is some love there, there is some sorrow that has been lost. So I really enjoyed the kind of the premise and the heart of this story. So all of these children are in Fablehouse, which is kind of like a grown community. They're kept separate from everything else. The owners of this care home, orphanage, want the children to be able to thrive and grow and just be protected from the community, kind of the wider community that kind of shuns them. And the right or wrongness to that, like being isolated, is explored in here. But there is also like this feeling of love in this house. So you have our protagonist who has run away from lots of different homes, and she doesn't get attached. She knows that, you know, she's not going to stay here long, so there's no point putting down things. It's just going to hurt more when that happens. So she's dealing with abandonment. She's dealing with losing loved ones, and feeling that she has to be self-reliant and not having friends. So slowly she kind of breaks out of that, and we start to see an emergence of a friendship group and of this kind of feeling of home. But then some weird stuff starts happening. There's a really nice kind of feeling of this local legend around the cairn, which is this tower of stones, like this kind of ancient tomb that kind of links back to sort of more pre-1000 times. So I'd say the Saxony period. So there's a kind of a feeling around there, and then there's some creepy stuff at the house which I really enjoyed. I think that was kind of more my favorite bit, when you've got this kind of group of children that like, something doesn't feel right here, and just like things are slightly off, that I really enjoyed. They meet a person that they think might not be from this world, and they hide him, and he is also black, so he understands kind of what they go through, because it's something that he's been through, and it turns out he is one of Arthur's knights, but is the only but was kind of still looked down on because of his skin color. So you've kind of got racism explored in that way as well, and I feel it must be it was kind of very reassuring for them. They kind of looked to him as this kind of like older brother, father figure. So all of those things were really enjoyable and very heartwarming. And then they decide that they need to go and try and help stop the problems and try and save their house. What I didn't enjoy so much is we did kind of go, there were moments when points were being made that kind of led on to bigger speeches. So I like the premise of the book, I like what the book is trying to do, but it didn't quite hit home fully for me, because whilst I was connecting with stuff, I was kind of pulled out of it by this very kind of long speech of the character exploring and kind of having this clarity moment. I think this would have been better to have more, to have not been, it was quite oversaid, I think. I think it would have worked better to have to have allowed more inference. Like, we don't need to be told everything. We can work things out, and even children can do that. Children can do inference. So I understand, like, wanting to make it clear to children, and there's probably a lot of children that this is really going to work for. They're really going to find it hopeful. They're really going to find it engaging and just supportive. Like, anyone that's felt like they don't fit in, anyone's felt that they aren't good enough, that they stick out, that that search for family, that search for a friendship group, anyone that feels like an outsider, I think would really enjoy the feelings behind this. However, I do feel it would have been more powerful if it was less wordy. Our protagonist makes a lot of speeches, thinks a lot of things, and all of them in their friendship group have their own little journeys. But you can see it coming, because you're like, well, we've dealt with that character, so we're now going to be dealing with this character. And it's like, it just felt like we were ticking them all off. So I'd like for it to have been sort of done slightly differently at different times, so you weren't expecting it. So it wasn't like, right, we've dealt with 3 of the characters, kind of what their worst thing is, and allowing them to believe in themselves, and now it's the 4th one. It just felt a little bit repetitive because of that. But ultimately, the story is very heartwarming kind of at the end. I personally found the magic system a bit too soft for me. I didn't quite understand. It was like magical items. Here's some fun magical items. Ta-da! Which is fine. A lot of people are fine with that. It is a middle grade story that some children would just be delighted to have magical weapons and just enjoy that. I felt I needed a little bit more struggle and a bit more kind of understanding from more of the villain side. But ultimately, this book was about these children believing in themselves and finding a home, and a place and belonging, and trying to meld as a community. I feel that was the drive of the story, and it did that. So it did what it set out to do. I will look forward to seeing other things that E.L. Norrie puts out, because I think her concepts are really interesting. But I hope that obviously the more she keeps writing, the more she kind of will develop her storytelling, and it won't be quite so I don't know what the word is, wordy, for want of a better word, more succinct with the points. So yeah, it was, I think it would definitely recommend it for middle grade children. Like I said, anyone that really enjoys reading about outcasts that find their home, I think will be really enjoy this. Anyone that likes a bit of an Arthur legend, that likes a little bit of a local legend, will enjoy this. But for me, I want the storytelling to be tighter. Yeah. I'm struggling to put it on the shelf. So that is everything I have read. I am currently reading 2 books. I am reading A Sky Beyond the Storm, which is the final book in the Ember Quartet by Sabaa Tahir. I'm really enjoying this. I am approaching halfway. I've read this much, as halfway to 2/3. Yeah, maybe a third. I've read a third. I have marked it out, so I'm trying to read a certain amount a day to make sure that I can get this read, and also read all the other books that I want to read as well. So I'm doing that just because this is chunky. It's really chunky. Like, I've read so much already. I'm like, still so much to go. But it's very fast paced. There's a lot happening. I'm really enjoying this a lot more than I enjoyed Reaper at the Gate. Reaper at the Gate, I appreciated the story and what was happening with the plot, but it wasn't fun. There were just moments where I'm like, oh, it felt spread out. whereas this feels everything's kind of coming together, like we're really heading towards, we can see the end game, we're really heading towards, and I want to know how the fallout's going to be. I want to know how all the pieces are going to fit in. You can really see like such a huge development from, like, we had a very tiny story in Ember that then branched out and grew bigger, really expanded in Reaper, and then here we have all of this, so many layers of this world that needs to be kind of pulled together and dealt with, and I feel very confident that Saboteur is going to deliver that. It feels very confident with her storytelling. The characters have always felt very true to themselves. I don't feel that anyone's kind of gone off the rails. I'm really enjoying them. They have all gone on massive journeys, like considering what they were like at the beginning to how they are now has been fantastic. We have got 4 points of view in this one. So we've got the 3 characters that we followed in Reaper plus another one. And I'm really enjoying it. And there is a lot of kind of themes in here about war, about loss, and yeah, and kind of like how you are acceptable with the actions that you do. And there's been a lot of soul searching in here, but not too much. And I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, having a great time with this one. I've also started, for when I need to just have a break from the epic, I have started a wonderful cozy, A Tangle of Spells by Michelle Harrison. So I haven't got too far in, just because I know it's so easy to read, I could just do it. So I'm kind of leaving it as I read my massive pages from here, and then I have a chapter of cozy to calm me down. I'm very intrigued. I was told that this has, by Vadania Silverscribe, that we have kind of a haunted feeling to this one. It has kind of like spooky Halloween vibes to it. And yes, we have just arrived at the place and are settling in the place where the main story is going to be for this. And we've got like slightly kind of, there is like, I'm so early days, but there is sort of a haunted house-ish vibe to it. And the girls are wonderful as always. The Widdowson sisters are their fantastic selves, and I enjoy them so much. They're just a delight. I love the combination of all 3, how they all kind of complement each other. So yes, having a great time with this one. I'm hoping to be, there's a load of other books that I want to get through. There's still bits that I've got left over from the readathons that I was wanting to read. And also I really want to read the Belladonna Foxglove back to back. I also really want to read Lynden Falls. I've got, it's coming to me. It's just down here. I'm just going to pick them up. Ooh. Here we go. These have been sat on my shelf looking at me. So Neogoma's trigger warning. I need to kind of make a little bit more headway with this. I've again read a third. It's a collection of short stories. This isn't necessarily one for me. I'm not great with short stories, especially kind of the spooky short stories. Yeah, I don't think this is right for me, but I'm reading it as part of my Chatties challenge. So I want to be able to give all my full thoughts and opinions on things for that, which I will make videos for in the new year. I've been promising for a while, it will happen. I want to read Lynden Falls and see how this self-published fantasy book goes. I know quite a lot of my friends are going to be reading it as well. So I do want to get to this one and be able to kind of give a review about it, tell you all my thoughts and feelings on it. So I think I need to, so again, it's kind of when I'm sort of like in that, it feels like it is more epic fantasy vibes, there's demons and angels involved. So I need to make sure I don't overload myself with that kind of thing. So I have a mixture in between. And I really, really, really want to read Blackwater Sister. Really, really, really do. And I think I've kind of been holding it off to the end. It's almost like once I've ticked a few other books off that I know that I needed to read and wanted to read, then I get to reward myself with this, is kind of how I'm feeling. Which seems silly, but it makes sense to me. But I think the why I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself this month is because I just want to go into December with no plans, apart from giving myself all the wintry magic vibes. That's what I want for December. Like, I don't want to be like, I need to finish off these things. I want to have left spookiness behind me, and I want to just fully embrace icy snow times. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. What have you been reading in the month of November? How's your reading been going? Have you got thoughts on anything that I have mentioned? I would love to hear, because you know I love a chat. Happy reading, everyone.